All right, let's start with the roll call, please. Robert Hannon,
Here.
Richard Berlandi,
Here.
David Fox.
Here.
Robert Eisner,
Here.
Neil Kelsey, Mark Simpson, Ned Stachin.
Here.
And Emily Brick.
I'm here.
Awesome. It's all yours, Chair.
Okay, so Emily, you will be seated tonight for all of the items on the agenda.
It's a big night.
Yep. First item on the agenda, Pond LLC, 7476 Batterson Park Road.
Good evening. For the record, Tom Daly with SLR. Where we left off at the last meeting was the commission gave me some homework assignment for 3 things, as I recall. And we hopefully were successful there. First homework assignment was to prepare an integrated pest management plan, which we have prepared and submitted to staff, and it's one that this commission should have seen before on other projects. I think it's a thoughtful one and well appropriate for this one. A second item on our to-do list was to look at the landscaping plan. And Bruce, I'm not sure you can pull up that one. So there was a suggestion that came in. It might have come in after the meeting. But could we take a look at some adding pollinators around the detention basin? So we worked with Megan Raymond and our landscape architects to develop a planting plan. And as you can see here, we went ahead and put a fairly robust perennial planting plan around the basin. I think, to be honest, I think it may be in excess of 500 perennials that we're putting around there. And we did also propose a lot of variety there. So I think we had already put together some shrub planting along the planting edge. We had that in the original plan, but we hope that this commission sees that this is a positive improvement. But we did have a seed mix in there, but I think those perennials will give a real jump start on those plants. So on that. The third item, the commission, and I think this was the primary homework assignment I had, was to go back and take a look at Pond View as an existing project. Were there stormwater enhancements that we could be looking at to kind of, every time we have a chance to work on a new, go back into a site plan, we have a chance to kind of bring it up to new, more modern standards. So we did do, and you have to say this is a plan that was drawn on top of the survey, because that was the plan we had. I did meet Bruce and Garrett Daigle out on the site. We did a walk at the 2 basins. We walked around the site, and I think it was a pretty good collaborative approach. Bruce and his staff provided some input, and then we also took a look at it. And one of the things we did look at is the impervious surfaces going to each one of these discharge points. And if it had a lot of impervious, we took a closer look, a more heightened look at it. If it was a small amount, we took so we really looked at, and thank you, Bruce, for offering that. We looked at a tiered approach. The good thing I can offer to this commission is that I was pleased to see that this is still somewhat of a modern project. So the 2 main discharges that go off towards 84 had stormwater basins. Clearly, they're man-made basins, so they had water quality features built into it. I know this commission walked out and saw the pond in the back. I mean, I'm pretty 100% sure those were man-made features for water quality. And there's kind of a sister one in the front portion of the site. Bruce, if you put right over there, there's an existing stormwater pond where the 2 discharges go into, and clearly that was a stormwater feature. So that's good news. We had 2 stormwater features that needed to be to be honest, they need some maintenance. As this commission may know, the applicant has only owned the property for 2 years, but I think these 2 elements probably have not been maintained over much of the time. So what we've looked at is the basin that Bruce is looking at. That's a stormwater basin there that functions quite well, but I think it's been silted up over the years since it was originally built. So we're gonna propose that that area would be basically cleaned out. It's probably primarily road sands back. I mean, we don't use much road sands, but back in the day they did. So we would kind of, we would muck that out. Those materials would be removed from site, off site. We would also then reseed that. The one thing we are proposing is that we would put some riprap filter berms in there. And that would just do a nice job in terms of slowing down the water and kind of containing any sediment into a smaller area. In addition to that, we are also proposing that there's two discharges that come into that basin. We're going to propose hoods to be installed on both of those, on both of those last catch basins. So I think we can really get a good treatment train with these elements on there. Bruce, if you pan over towards Batterson Park. So over towards Batterson Park, we really have two discharges that go down to the road. First one Bruce is talking to only takes a very small watershed. It's only about 14,000 square foot of impervious. So on that one, we're proposing to put a hood on the last catch basin. Just to the north of that, we have a much larger watershed. So that one's getting up to about 78,000 square feet. And we're proposing to do a couple things. One, we're looking to there's some existing catch basins that are out in the lawn. That area was supposed to be deferred parking and it's not needed, so we're not looking to build it. But there was some thought on the town's part that maybe some, lawn fertilizer was being put on there and it was going right into the catch basin. So what we want to do is we want to raise that catch basin up or modify it in a way that we get the water to infiltrate into the grass instead of just run off on there. I have to take a closer look at it. We may be able to close that catch basin off completely, but I didn't want to propose that in the spring. I'll take a look at it and I don't want to close it off and then find out we have some flooding or discharge, the water goes uncontrolled onto Batterson Park Road, which would not be good. So at a minimum, we want to do is raise it up and almost create like a biodepression on the lawn. And then the catch basin down just below that, we have another one. We want to basically replace that catch basin with a water quality vault, a CDS unit or equal. We're proposing CDS units on our proposal, so they would just be brought into the overall maintenance plan. So because that watershed is bigger, we believe that that area needs that CDS unit, which is a higher threshold. And then Bruce, if we pan all the way to the back, so we did walk down in the pond that you looked at. One, we did identify on this plan that we will remove the tire that we saw out there. And then the pond spillway, I think as the commission indicated, it looks like a tree has fallen down. It's causing some backup on the pond there. So we'll go out there with chainsaws. And when we get the tire, we can also clean that area. And if there's any debris over what appears to be a man-made spillway, we'll clean that up. But ultimately, the pond seemed to be, functioning pretty well as a stormwater management. But we do want to see if there's an opportunity for us to put a hood at right near the drop off, where the loop drive is. So if there's any floatable debris, it'll stay up here and we can easily clean it out instead of it going all the way down to the pond. And then I understand so we have some, I think one of the commission members, Commissioner Eisner commented that we had a bunch of catch basins that are out in the upper area. Clearly, most of those catch basins are going to be abandoned or just completely removed as part of this project. But there was some thought that even in the short term, there would be a benefit to closing those off. So I think at this point, we were looking to, at a minimum, put a piece of plywood down and maybe 2 sandbags or see if we can find some rocks out there and then close those off. So either people don't fall into it or we don't get some animals going down there. So we're committed to do that. Obviously, we're interested in moving this project forward quickly, but the timing, it's an important project. So it may not be till the fall when we start construction, but we can put that plywood down as soon as weather permits. So those are the kind of the 3 things that we submitted to this commission since our last visit or our last meeting. With that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the commission may have this evening.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Rich, I'll start with you. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I don't have any questions. I want to say thank you for the effort in taking a look at the existing system. It's much appreciated.
Okay, thanks. Emily?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Dave?
Hi, yeah, thanks also for making all these great improvements to the stormwater system at the existing property. I did have one question. We're talking about the size of the drainage areas and whether it would be a hooded catch basin or water quality chamber. But one of the sub areas that goes to the basin in the southwest is actually bigger than the one that you're proposing for a water quality chamber. I was wondering what the rationale.
Yeah, because my thought there was the pond is a water quality feature. So luckily there's two, these ponds are there. Whereas opposed to Batterson Park, there is no water quality chamber. The catch basins were just going, and I didn't have there's no real estate over there for me to put in a new pond or basically a vegetated type best management practice. So that's why we put it on that side.
Yeah, thank you, that makes sense. And one more thing, how deep are the sumps in the existing catch basins?
Some of it's amazing, especially where this hooded thing. Some of these catch basins are really deep out there, so it's hard to tell. I would suspect that if I had to guess, it's 2 foot is usually the standard. I know our projects in Farmington, we always go 4 feet now, but back in the day. But with water in them, I don't think I could have seen the depth of the sumps out there.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Dave. Robert?
I'll echo the thanks, Tom. You must have taken copious notes at the last meeting because you touched on everything we discussed. So thank you for doing that. I guess a question for you, or maybe this is to Bruce, but you covered a lot of changes and improvements. Have all those been submitted, or is there still things that need to come into this town staff for review?
At this point, we have everything. This is, like I said, this is the only extra attachment that they've submitted, and that's just a general overview of what they would like to do. If the committee, as part of the condition of approval, they can add these notes into the full-fledged plan. So
Yeah, we're actually planning on, if we're successful here, we're moving on to, town planning and zoning. I've already told my staff that we're going to incorporate these comments into the planning and zoning submission. So it's just not a PDF graphic.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's all I had for questions.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Ned?
Yeah, so just to follow up, where it says on the agenda review that once planning is available, we'll forward to the commission. So that you have those plans that you're waiting. Dave, you've gotten the plans that in the agenda review says you're waiting for?
Yes, those we had. Those were submitted.
Okay.
The agenda review was submitted prior to these
Okay.
plans being coming
All
out.
right. On the catch basins that are out there in the road to nowhere. So I appreciate the putting the plywood on the tops, but for the permanent removal, are we gonna go down a certain depth for the concrete, and maybe if there's not holes, poke holes in the bottom in the floor or something like that?
No, the intent is to remove them holistic, it'd be
Okay.
complete, because a lot of them do fall under the building, so we can't leave those. So
Okay.
I would anticipate it's just not abandoning in place. We will be completely removing those and taking out all the pipes. So there'll be, and essentially we'll probably be crossing somebody. So our intent is completely remove
Okay.
and then backfill.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ned. Yeah, I'll echo same basic comment as a number of other commissioners did, and thank you for the update. And you were correct about the pollinator species after the meeting, and it was me. So, it just, after looking at the plan again, it just looked like it's far enough away. It's not going to cause a problem with residents. So I thought that might be a good thing. And with the water feature right there, it seems as though it may be a good way to go. So I thank you for that as well. I think basically you've responded to the questions that we had, at least the questions that I had. So I did have a chance to go back and look at the drawing. So I had a pretty good understanding as to what it is you were proposing to do. So I think that's about all I have to say. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but
No, nothing to add.
all right. So from a technical perspective, we've accepted the application and we made a determination that this is not a significant activity. So with that being the case, and from what I've heard from some of the commission members this evening, it seems as though everybody has been satisfied with some of the changes. So based on what I'm hearing, does somebody want to make a motion to approve the application? And if so, are there any conditions that you want added to it?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval of the Pond LLC application based on the plans with the improvements for IPM, the landscaping and drainage plan, and that all notes as discussed at tonight's meeting be incorporated for concurrence by town staff.
Bear with me as I look at this with a magnifying glass because I'm trying to look to see what the revision date is.
Which plan? The
Can you help me
pollinator?
out on that one?
The pollinator plan, Chair?
Well, I think they were submitted the 28th of December, but I was just looking if there was a revision date on the map itself.
The pollinator.
Okay.
is the
Okay, so Robert, do you want to reflect it, the notes and stuff based on this submittal date or this amendment to the plan?
Yeah, my screen is small and sideways. So was it 1/27, 2022?
Yeah, 127.
Yes, on the plans dated January 27th, 2022.
I'll second that, Ned.
Okay, seeing as how everybody seemed to be okay with the way this was presented, I'll just go ahead and go to the vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Good luck with it, and I will admit, I think it's probably a much better use than more office space.
We hope so,
hopefully
and I
this works
appreciate it.
for them.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Next up is Southwest Village of Farmington Limited, Lot 1 at Tufts Street. The one we didn't do the site visit on.
All right, yes, Sev is here. You there, Sev?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Seth Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones and Associates. At the last meeting, there were concerns by the commission and staff, and we have addressed those. One of them was the grading on the southeast corner of the house. And what we did, we moved the house toward Tonsas Road as suggested by Bruce, from 40 feet to 28 feet. So we moved the house 12 feet north, which allows better room, more room in the southeast corner. In addition to that, we have included modified riprap along the slope at that location. We revised the clearing area, a total that we were proposing to include a footing drain installation at the southwest corner of the property. We revised the erosion control detail to include straw wattle in addition to the silt fence on the property for erosion control. We have shown the proposed grading around the house and in the back. The plantings have been identified. We're going to plant 2 trees in the front One will be a pin oak, and the other one will be a maple, probably a sugar maple. The conservation easement is depicted along the top of slope, and Bruce indicated that we're going to work together to refine that and provide bearing and distances on that easement and create a legal document for that. I think those were the issues at the time. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Rich, we'll start with you. Any comments, questions, concerns?
No, I don't have any comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Emily?
No, sir.
Dave?
Yeah, I did a very brief site walk of my own. And I really like all the changes that you made, particularly moving the conservation easement. I did have a question. There's a very large tree in the southeast corner of the property, at least halfway down the embankment. I'm assuming that that tree is going to remain. It's probably a specimen tree because it's more than 36 inches, I think.
It's not planned to be removed by the plan, the way the plan is shown, but if you would like us to remove it, I saw that.
No, I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be removed.
Okay, I understand. So you can make a stipulation that that tree will remain.
Okay. I guess that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Robert?
Seb, I have a question about when your services on this project will end. And the reason I'm asking is the site is obviously tight. You've done a good job at pulling the house as far away from the wetland as you can. It's a specific design versus a spec house. I think the impact should be minimal as long as the soil and erosion control plan is done correctly. So are you going to be involved in the early stages of construction, or are you just handling the approval and then you're off? I'm just wondering if we should have a pre-construction meeting to make sure there's not intrusion into the wetlands when the construction starts. So how long are you going to be involved in the project? Do you know?
We're going to be involved in the staking for the clearing. We already staked the property line. We will be staking the house, and we will be staking the silt fence location for the construction to start taking place. But normally we have on the plan on the left side of our sheet, we have a note indicating that a meeting should be had with the staff to go over the steps to be taken before anything happens on the property. And Mr. Barberino knows that, and his staff knows that.
Great, thanks, Seb. Yeah, so Bob or Mr. Chairman, in terms of potential conditions, I do think, even though it's a small project, I think a condition of approval for a pre-construction meeting would be a good idea. Because again, once the equipment is on the site, you know, if it's not staked and if the contractors don't know where not to go, there could be some impacts that we wouldn't want to see.
Commissioner,
That would be my only.
Yep. If you don't mind if I interrupt on that one, we have in our building permit process, we have steps along the way. And what I've been doing for jobs like this, we actually require that the wetlands be delineated, the conservation easement be delineated, and erosion control be installed prior to us signing off and passing over to the building office. So all that will be done before they even get on site. So
Terrific. Thanks for the clarification. I appreciate that. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Ned?
Yeah. So where you have the proposed modified riprap and the I guess it's southeast corner, is that because the drainage is the runoff is coming mostly into that corner, or?
It's because of the steepness in the grade, and we're getting close to it with the corner of the house. So we didn't want to create any kind of silt movement going down to that slope. And if there is any, it would be trapped by the silt fence, the straw wattles, and the riprap that's there. We want to reinforce that corner for the future, basically. We don't
Okay.
want to leave it exposed and have a problem later.
Okay. Now this area is already steep. I mean, that back, once you get past the conservation easement, that's a steep drop off, correct? This
Yes.
is- Yeah, okay. All right. I guess, I don't know. I'm a little concerned that, you know, the runoff coming out of the culvert on Main Street, you know, if it starts to hit that that steep slope, that if we're gonna get any erosion problems at the base of the slope, you know, we're at the edge of the brook. I don't know, I guess I'll ask Dave, do we find, you know, in your review of this, would you be concerned about where the water's coming out of the culvert and causing an erosion at the base of the slope? Or if it's not doing now, I guess because it looks like that slope has been steep there for a while. I don't know, maybe somebody had proposed, since this was an existing lot, somebody did some site work to flatten that area before. Do you think that's, I mean, I don't think that steep grade there is original. It looked like somebody
No.
might have done some clearing
No,
a long time
no,
ago.
That was filled in, I want to say, I think when we looked at, I want to say probably like the 60s or the 70s. So something
Okay.
like that. I don't have the exact date, but I remember seeing it on the plans that the one of those outlets from the town pipe was actually up along the edge of the road. So over the
Yeah.
years, that was brought in and filled in. I sent those pictures. Unfortunately, I forgot to put them down on this drive. I can go grab them and put them on this drive if you want, but I don't recall there being any erosion down there. And as we said, those pipes and that slope has been in there for quite a while, and there's nothing that I saw that was very significant erosion. So
the being anything slope, Jason, is the road that'll be outside the work area, right?
you broke up a little bit. What was that?
So there won't be any construction going on at the base of the slope adjacent river. Everything is going to be limited to up top.
Yeah, the conservation easement is here. We'll probably try to get that out to the top of the hill as much as possible.
Okay.
Tweak it and make that happen, and then nothing will happen down at the base here.
All right. So then if all these years since that slope has been built up, then we haven't had an erosion washout, then I guess we probably won't have one now if we're not disturbing anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ned. I do have a question. Along the top of the bank, I see where you've got the posts for the conservation easement. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about is the proposed footing drain, because again, I'm not sure exactly where the conservation easement is on the diagram. I don't know if you've actually cut it out, you know, so that it extends down that slope, because it almost looks like there's a small fence or something right up parallel or in line with where you have the conservation easement, where that pipe is going down the slope. So I'm just trying to get a clear understanding of the conservation easement area and whether or not that includes that cutout where that footing drain goes.
Chair,
Yeah.
if you don't mind if I interrupt on that one, we've done that numerous times before on like other projects. The clearing shows it being rather wide, but there's not that much trees up there, and you're really not going that deep with it. So you're more or less going to snake this pipe through the easement. We've done this before where we have the easement come across the top, and there's just a little paragraph in there that they can maintain that the pipe as needed. I'd hate to bring the easement around here because it just allows for more clearing to happen in here.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with it, because again, not knowing exactly where the conservation easement was going, if there wasn't something in the language to enable them to go in and do any repair work on it, they'd have to come into the town every time they wanted to do some work on it because we're the ones that hold the easement, therefore they'd have to get our authorization to do the work. So I'm just trying to check on that. But now that you raised the question, how would the pipe be installed? I mean, is it going to be snaked in or is it going to be a backhoe? So
Let me see, basement's at 182. He's down at 780 down in here. So it should be able to be done with a small little mini excavator, you know, and I can do that as part, as Robert Eisner was saying, that we can do that as part of the pre-construction meeting, you know, locate that in such a way where no trees are cleared or damaged.
yeah, and kind of where I was also looking at it is because you'd want to stabilize the bank. I'd like to have, as part of that agreement, what measures are going to be made to stabilize the bank as quickly as possible so that we don't start having that part of the embankment start eroding. I realize you're not touching the other areas except where you're putting in some of the modified riprap. But I've seen too many times where you go in, you take an area that hasn't undergone any type of work, you go in, you do something small, and then ends up expanding over time, whether the materials aren't compacted or whatever it is. But I'd like to make sure that that area, once the work is done, it's also restabilized.
Okay, yep, we can do that.
We agree to that, Mr. Chairman. We usually put erosion blankets immediate for immediate stabilization. We put the erosion blankets after it's been graded.
And I'm assuming the erosion blankets you're talking about, they biodegrade over time.
Yes,
Okay. And that would be with more like a thread material rather than a plastic binding, correct?
that's right. It's natural material like
Okay.
hay type of
All right.
material.
Okay, no, that answers the primary question I had and going back and looking at the map. So again, the conservation easement, we're looking at having that right along the top of the slope, correct?
Yes, my revised map shows that it's pretty much at the top of slope.
Okay. All right, I think that's basically all that I had. Not hearing any comments about how people are vehemently opposed to this. It sounds as though it's running on a favorable track. So we had a couple of comments about potential conditions on it. So would somebody care to make a motion to approve the application as
Yes.
revised? And I don't have the I don't have the revision date here that I can see.
Oh, right here, hold on. We'll have to first make a,
126.22.
we'll have to first make the,
123. Correct?
yep, 126.22, and we'll have to make a determination first.
Okay.
Good.
So with that being the case, would somebody like to make a motion about the significance of this activity on the site?
I would move as a non-significant regulated activity.
Is there a second?
Dave will second.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? If not, go forward with a vote. Those in favor of the motion for it's not a significant regulated activity, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so it takes care of that issue. And then would somebody care to make a motion to approve the application? At least that's where the dialogue seemed to be taking us. Did I hang up on people?
I thought someone started to make the motion before. That's why I'm yielding to that. Okay, I'll go ahead. I'll move approval of the application with the requirement that the applicant follow the town's pre-construction, pre-application procedures. And the approval is based on, and I didn't write down the date. So the revised plan dated
126.
26/22.
Thank you, 126/22.
Is there a second?
This is Rich, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve the application with a couple conditions. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Next is AJ&S Associates 2 LLC over on 1 and 3 Farm Glen Boulevard. Apparently a new sidewalk has to be installed.
Where did all my stuff go? Hold on.
Hello.
Yeah, hold on.
Sure.
I had everything loaded and it all disappeared. Must be the same guy that made it snow. Let's see, give me a second to load these right in. There we go.
Could have been the groundhog.
All right. There we go. You're good. Here we go. All right, Megan, you're all set.
Great. Thanks a lot, Bruce. Good evening. For the record, or for good evening, this is Megan Raymond. I'm a professional wetland scientist and registered soil scientist with SLR, and I'm here to represent the owner and applicant of 1 and 3 Farm Glen, AJ&S Associates 2 LLC. And this is their property on Farmington Avenue that is approximately 15 acres in size. What we're looking at is an aerial view, and you'll see north is straight up on this page. So we have about 1,600 linear feet of frontage on Farmington Avenue that is, yes, requiring a sidewalk to be installed that would extend from the southern, well, actually, let's start down at the bottom, Bruce, sorry. The southern, there's a signalized crosswalk or signalized intersection there with a crosswalk that crosses over Farmington Avenue. And then we'd enter the site, and this sidewalk would extend 1,600 linear feet. It'd be comprised of 6 foot wide bituminous concrete. The reason that we're before you this evening is that a portion of this sidewalk in the northeastern portion of the project area or the site lies within the upland review, the 150-foot upland review, to a drainage or wetland corridor, drainage corridor that conveys surface flow that from, sorry, just, yeah, there we go.
There's
So
no problem. Sorry.
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Thank you. There's a wetland corridor here that originates at the outlet of a head wall. There's some twin concrete head wall with 2 pipes in it, 24-inch, I believe, that convey some surface flow onto the site. This drainage corridor actually meets up with another wetland that exists in the rear of the Farm Glen property to then flow east onto the Yukon site and then onwards into, crosses Route 4 again and off to Trout Brook and eventually the Connecticut River. It's about a 1.5 square mile basin. Overall, wetlands on the site are a little over an acre. So the portion of these activities that are within your jurisdiction are the 150-foot upland review. So we have 230 linear feet of sidewalk located in this area. And that's what we're seeking authorization for. So it's approximately 2,500 square feet of work within that 150-foot upland review. We would be working all in the upland. There's no direct wetland impacts or direct wetland involvement. We'll use a straw wattle would be sufficient for sedimentation and erosion control. In this case, the wetland is a nice little wetland. It's comprised of a palustrin broadleaf deciduous forested drainage corridor. Again, it does convey surface flow to the east, off-site to the east, underlain by Wilbraham Menlo, glacial till soils. So the intent obviously is to protect that area, not impose any direct wetland impact, and just looking to increase some pedestrian mobility in this portion of town by installing the sidewalk. You can see on this figure to the northeast there's a bright white line. It looks very clear. That's an existing sidewalk of the same composition and width that we'll be tying right into. So that is the intent of the project. There are some engineering drawings that show the profile of this feature, as well as the plan view that were generated by David Whitney back in 2017. There was some land use applications at that time. Nothing was ever constructed. The inland wetlands never saw the sidewalk portion of the project. And so we're seeking for this evening is authorization for these activities. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that is a summary of our application. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Rich?
I'm kind of questioning what is the surface that exists there now, where the sidewalk is proposed? Is it a lawn area, or will there be some clearing to do this?
So actually, that's a great question that I meant to bring up. Within the work area, the majority of the surface of the vegetative interface is lawn. As you move toward the wetland corridor, there is a small area of shrubs, but it's just basically your basic roadside vegetation. There's a portion within the upland review area. There actually is a narrow asphalt sidewalk present today that occupies a lot of the extent of work area within the upland review. So it's kind of a mix, but we're not looking at significant removal of canopy vegetation or anything along that line. It's primarily manicured lawn, some of this asphalt, as well as some shrubs, kind of weedy shrubs that may exist within the path of the sidewalk.
Great, thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thanks, Rich. Emily?
I have no questions. All this is very clear, and I always like a good sidewalk.
Thank you. Dave?
Just one quick question. How close is the sidewalk to the wetlands?
Well, because of the culvert, the cross culvert, these wetlands are going to be, I mean, the sidewalk is up on the road line, and the wetland boundary is within 6 feet of the edge of the sidewalk, but you have a topographic gradient of about 6 feet between the road surface and then the wetland corridor below. So those are the approximate dimensions there.
Okay, thanks. I was just asking because the green line is very close to the yellow line. Thank you.
Correct. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Robert?
Megan, why is the sidewalk being installed? Is the town requiring it? Is that the background?
There was a condition of yes, correct. That's correct.
Okay, so clearly it's a required public safety measure. So while there is work in close proximity to the wetland, it's all going to come down to just good practices during the construction, soil and erosion control plan. And Megan, what's happening with the material that's being excavated? Is that all being removed?
Correct.
Okay. So I don't have any concerns with the project. Again, public safety is always going to outweigh any potential short-term impact on the wetlands. And with good construction practices, the impact should be minimal. End of my comments.
All right, thanks, Robert. Ned?
I'm just when I looked at the plans, I saw and they have the 150 wetland mark off, but then they're saying conservation restriction and easement area to be granted to the town of Farmington. Is that with this project, or is that from an old note? Like I'm talking towards in the rear of the building.
Oh, the rear of the building.
Yeah. I'm looking at a note that says conservation restriction and easement. I'm just knowing, is this being created from the sidewalk project, or is this something old?
That's not related to the, yes.
Okay.
Correct. Or well, I guess I can't comment, but that's not in terms of there is this existing set of plans. The sidewalk is portrayed on it. we're not looking at any of the verbiage or narrative that exists on, to the south or in areas not related to the specific activity. The purpose of portraying the sidewalk on these drawings is that it gives you the plan view and profile, but the remainder of the work is not involved with this.
Commissioner, this was a approved plan back in 2017. They used this as for other work that was being done, and as part of it, the sidewalk was being proposed. So there was no need
Okay.
to redesign it. So they just brought up the old plan where the sidewalk was originally proposed, and that's what they're using as a plan.
Okay. So where it crosses at the, I guess it'd be in the northeast.
Mhm.
Over the culvert that's under the roadway, that's not gonna go anywhere deep enough to affect that. Is that culvert down low?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason the sidewalk kind of winds a little bit is just it follows the grade a little better, or
That's how it appears to me. Looking
Okay.
at the profile, that's,
Yeah, there's some,
Okay.
there's a swale there, so
Yeah,
you
I can
don't
see
really
the
want to
swale,
drop
right.
it down. And so you're keeping it up high on the road, and it just, that's kind of where it wants to be.
there's utility poles out there they have to go around, and then as you get up on here, there's a very little snow shelf there. There's not a lot of safety, so they were actually moved that sidewalk back onto their property. So that's kind of why it's gonna serpentine in and out of the area.
okay. And then a little bit in front of the where it says Farmington Avenue on the plans, and there's that note, grade this area as possible for possible visibility of building one, no blasting permitted, all disturbed areas to be loam seeded and mulched. Is that old notes or?
Yep, that's all. That was all part
Okay.
of this sidewalk approval when this was proposed.
Okay.
So it is all outside the upland review area. They may tweak this a little bit, but
And that most of that grading has been done already, you're saying?
no.
No, it hasn't.
That's been done.
That's correct. That part is proposed, and there's a little bit of, the reason for the blasting is that there's a little bit of bedrock there. And so they just have to do some chipping to lay that in and grade that out. Obviously,
but-
we're 1,000 feet or so from the wetland in this location, adjacent to
yeah,
the
okay.
crosswalk.
All right.
But that is just the site condition that's going to be required for construction.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bruce, can you bring up the original map that you had, which showed,
This one?
okay, yeah. And seeing as how I never get this straight with my wife, I need you to bring the picture up because I want to see the southern end of the property.
So a zoom out limit, this mean?
Yeah, okay. The driveway, I'm just curious, you end the sidewalk at the driveway. Why isn't it being completed for the rest of the property?
It drops off very, very steep here. There's no room to put this in. So as part of that, this sidewalk then meanders down. I can't dry out. Damn. It follows along this road, and then there's a sidewalk route that runs through the property back out onto South Road.
Okay.
This is there's like guide rail right along the edge.
Wanted to make sure it didn't stop at a spot where then access automatically ended. So,
No.
okay, thank you for that clarification. Robert got to my comment about why it was going in before I did, so that's fine. The only other comment I want to make is, Ned, if you were around when this project last came in for review, there's a tree in the back of this property. I have no idea what the name is, but I kind of look at it like a tree of death spikes. I mean, it's an unusual tree. I've never seen it anywhere else. And there are spikes on this tree that have got to be 6 to 8 inches, if not more, up and down the tree. I mean, it is unusual and unsafe to go near. But I know they did some work in the back and cleaned things out and did some drainage and changed some parking with it the last time. But no, okay, I don't really have any issue with it either. I agree with Robert. I mean, this is something that is for public safety. It makes a whole lot of sense. And the fact that there's more of a sidewalk going in is a benefit to the folks that work in this area as well as the town. So I'm fine with that. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? No. So I think so as far as this goes, I mean, I need somebody to make a motion to accept the application, if somebody would be so gracious.
So moves to
I'll make
action.
that.
Is there a
Oh,
second?
all right, I'll second it then.
Okay.
One of
those
us,
in
yeah.
favor of accepting the application, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, abstaining. Do we need a vote on significance on this? Because this is about as non-significant as it gets.
I make a motion. This is not a significant project.
Is there a second?
April 2nd.
Okay, have a motion on the floor that this is not a significant project. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, abstaining? Okay. So we can't vote on the application itself tonight. Earliest we can do is the next meeting, so, but at least you're in the process.
Yes. Thank you very much. It was always a
All right.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Seeing as how that ends the items on new business, I don't think we have any old business. So planners report, and this is because I talked to Bruce.
All right. So if you recall, last year, there was an approval for a solar panel at 10 Mountain Lane. All right. Let me zoom in here. They want to put the panel in the back in an existing pasture area. The wetland line was field located as part of the subdivision, and that runs right along the property line. So that's why they came into the commission. All right. And what they want to do is they originally started with 33 feet or so from the wetland. Now they went out, they located it for the homeowner. The homeowners are a little concerned. They have some concerns with the separation from the septic system. So they've now shortened this distance to 23 feet, 4 inches. So I felt I would talk to the chair on this and see how we wanted to handle this. We thought we'd bring it back as a planner's report, see if anybody had any problems with it. As we said, they are in an existing pasture area. There will be no trees being cut. So it should not be a problem. Let me see here. There's a picture. I thought they had pictures somewhere. So on that one, where's it here? Here we go. Yeah, here we go. So you can see this is the actual manicured lawn area. This is the actual like pasture area, I'll call it. So they just want to kick this a little further back towards the trees, and we're told that there will not be any tree clearing or anything.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Bruce is saying, I thought it could be handled administratively. Didn't think it was that big of a deal, but also at the same time, because this came before us, I thought it'd be a good idea just to let the folks on the commission know what's going on and see if you have any different input on it.
They had gone back to, they had originally got a variance for it, and they've gone back a second time and got a revised variance for it to move it closer. So this is just following up. This is just making the circle back to the Inland Wetlands Commission to confirm that they're in approval of it as well.
I'll just say that based on the effect of the area, I don't think that change is going to make a big difference.
this is Rich. I agree, and it's probably is beneficial for their septic system to keep this a little bit farther away from it.
Like I said, my take was I didn't think we needed a formal action on it, but it was more just to let people know what's going on. So in case you got a call in the middle of the night, you at least had some idea as to what was going on with it. So if there's no problem with it, I mean, is this something you think that can be handled administratively? And to me, that makes the most sense. We've already approved the application. If it gets moved a few more feet, it's still out of the wetlands. And it's still in an area where it's not impacting any trees or things of that nature, so. I mean, so it sounds like that's the way we're headed on this, Bruce. So I think it can be
right.
handled administratively in the office.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I was just looking at the agenda, and I don't think we took a vote on a site walk for 13 Farm Glen Boulevard. And I don't think we need one, but I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that I didn't is because this is part of the older plan that was approved. So I think they're just now coming back and actually doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this one, I just saw it's on the agenda, so I don't know if you wanted to cover that.
I mean,
People
I'm happy
aren't-
to go back, circle back to that and ask if people want a site walk.
I would vote no.
I would vote no. Robert, I think, is saying no. I can't see Rich,
Okay.
so I don't know
No.
what he's doing with his head.
If there's no sidewalk there, there's no reason to walk there.
Okay.
We'll take a walk after the project's done.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Next on the agenda is the minutes. However, it's only going to be part of what's down here because we didn't do the walk on January 30th. So there are no site walk notes to approve. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2022?
So move, statute.
Is there a second?
Second, Berlandy.
Have a motion on the table or on the floor to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2022. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstaining? So we're all set there. So we'll adjourn this meeting at 7:55. Call the conservation meeting to order at 7:55. Land Acquisition Committee report says next meeting is February 10th. I do have a question though. Has anything been done about the second person from Wetlands to be on or attend the Land Acquisition Committee meetings?
Yes, yes, we are. We are still working on that and we'll hopefully resolve that very soon. We have to get them
Okay,
copies
so
of the
council
minutes
has
again.
not voted on it.
No, no, they have
Okay.
not, they have not voted. So
All right,
very soon, I'm told. So
okay. Doesn't look like you have anything under planners report.
nothing.
One of the things that came up in the meeting last night was the town cleanup. But what relates to that is the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. Is that something that we're planning for April?
Yes, I think we have it slated for April 23rd. So from what I'm told, I guess you guys used to do it in the past, but now this year it's just handled with the highway department through all the regional towns and
Yeah,
stuff.
the last 2 or 3 years, we haven't really been involved in it. I think there's 5 towns, Robert, I think they're involved in it. And their public works people show up and everybody attends those being done in other towns as well. Okay. I just wanted to see if we had a date on that. So it sounds like it's the latter part of April. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the Conservation Commission meeting minutes of January 19th, 2022?
So move, Berlandy.
Is there a second?
Second, statute.
Okay, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining. So I think that does it for tonight, folks. So it's about 7:58. So this looks like a good agenda to stick to, and let's see if we can keep doing this going forward.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Everybody have a good night.
Good night.